In today's video, we're going to take a close look at my process, my techniques, my thoughts, and my decisions out on the racetrack. Stay tuned.
Goldstar TV.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down a bracket race round by round. But first, if you're new here and you're at all interested in any kind of drag racing content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell for notifications. I guarantee you, you will not regret it. Did you do it? Did you ring the bell now? Alright, we can move on. You guys killed it on my in-helmet audio video. So many of you guys asked me to do that during eliminations, but what you need to realize is eliminations is like 10 seconds of complete focus and concentration, you guys, and I don't think that I am capable of doing two things at once, at least not very well. Instead of doing that, today we're going to be breaking down a bracket race round by round so that you guys can get a better feel for what's going through my head on the track, what kind of decisions am I making, what are my thoughts on the racetrack, what am I doing inside the car, giving you a better idea what's happening all the way from burnout to finish line. And I think I picked a race with a good variety, a good mix of different types of bracket racing scenarios. So I think this will really show how different each race actually is out on the drag strip. Let's get rocking on this. Cue the robot lady. Round one, here we go.
Round one.
Alright, so you guys have actually already seen this round in the last video. It just kind of happened this way that we did first round one day, then we raced the main event, and we came back and we finished the bracket race the next day. So this is a day earlier than the rest of the rounds that will be shown in the rest of this video. But nonetheless, round one here, we did not have any time trials before this hit. So this was the first hit down the track for the day. So I was dialed in at a 5:11. I was thinking, according to my computer, was saying like 5:10 or something like that, so I felt like I was holding about one number on this pass. Wanted to make sure that I could run the number just because we hadn't had any time hits so far. Alright, so I had a 015 bulb, which was a slight advantage in this race. But you can see I made a questionable finish line call. I mean, I decided to stay behind on this run. I decided to give up the stripe on this run. And the reason I did that is because I felt like I could break out. Like I said, we didn't have any time hits, and I thought that my car could maybe break out, dialed in at a 5:11, so I knew that I needed to get rid of something at the finish line. He seemed to be quite a bit out on me most of the run down the track. I probably could have waited a little bit longer to try and push him out. I maybe gave him a little bit too much time to catch me, but fortunately it didn't look like he caught me dropping. Ended up giving 13 stripe on that race. He ended up breaking out by a Hyundai. I was dead on with a 7, so it all worked out. But like I said, questionable finish line call there. Maybe I should have waited just a bit longer to pound that brake pedal on that one, looking back at the footage. And also looking back at the footage, it looked like maybe, just maybe, I would have been able to take the stripe. But, you know, in real life, it didn't look like I was going to get there. So I let him take the stripe, 13. It all worked out.
Round two.
Alright, so round number 2 here, I actually got to chase, which I ended up with a very nice view, as you can see here. He was dialed in at a 5:55, I believe. I was dialed in at a 5:10 on this race. Ended up turning on a 16 bulb, which was a pretty good advantage in this particular round. Had a great view and was able to turn a 004 stripe on this round. So when you have the right kind of view, it is so much easier to really tighten up the finish line. Ended up with 4,000th on the finish line here, ran one above 9. But here's a good point to make on this race. Is it smart to try and be taking 00 every pass? I mean, there's no reason I needed to tighten up this particular race that much. I could have easily given the stripe back here and I would have been 200ths above my dial, you know? So just think about that. If you're catching someone way early and you think you've dialed it honest, don't risk giving the stripe back. You don't need to be taking 00 every single time if you're dialed honest and you have a fairly consistent car. Obviously in this round it worked out for me. I took 00 stripe. That's what I was trying to do, but maybe it should have clicked in my head like, look, I'm catching this guy really fast. I feel like I'm dialed honest. Maybe I should take 10 stripe and not run the risk of giving it back.
Round 3.
Alright, so moving on to round 3 here, I actually had one GoPro failure on this pass. So we're stuck with just the helmet cam for this particular round. You can see here in the burnout box, what I typically like to do is try to take a practice hit if I can. If I have enough time and I get up into the burnout box soon enough, I really like to try and take a practice hit on the tree, on the pair ahead of me if I get a chance. As you can see, I really look kind of like a nervous wreck in the car here, but most of it's just a habit built around, you know, things that have bit me in the past, really. I'm sure everyone has some sort of a routine like this. The big question I get asked a lot is about my battery shut off. You can see that little handle on the right side of my dash is actually the battery shut off, and I've had that vibrate closed on me, so it turned the car off. And ever since then, I developed this habit of like quadruple checking to make sure that that thing is good and in the on position. Kind of made an improvement to the car where it's kind of a spring-loaded thing now. I think it's highly unlikely to ever have that failure again, but the habit still exists. You can see here when I'm backing up the car into the stage beams, I'm really doing this slowly, I'm really doing this carefully. I've kind of discussed this in a couple other videos, but I do not like to back up behind the starting line any further than I have to. I really like to minimize the amount of track distance covered by my tires between the burnout and the starting line. So that's why you'll see me dynamiting the brakes, and that's why you'll see me being very careful, so I'm backing up very, very straight and in the groove so that I don't have to do any extra messing around to try and get lined up down the track once I get back behind the starting line. As you can see on this pass, my opponent actually broke down or had some kind of failure on the starting line. This is why it's so important to get a look at your opponent early on in the pass. On this particular run, I was dialed in at a 5.11. I was a little late on the tree. I had a 0.24 light, but the timing was good, just needed to be green. Ended up running a 5.19 with a 0, just coasting through after I identified that the other car had some sort of trouble there.
Round 4.
Alright, in round number 4, I lined up against one of the faster cars on the property. He was dialed in at a 4.32. So everything I said about having a good view back in round 2 was completely out the window on a race like this. I dialed the car in a little bit more honest just because I was going against such a fast opponent. So I knocked the dial in down to a 5.10. Ended up having an 0.10 bulb, and it was actually a pretty good advantage on this race. As you can see just how long it took me to actually see him coming. Forever. I must have looked back 4 or 5 times before I could even see him. I had the car flat-footed on this pass. I mean, that was pretty much the whole plan, and ended up with 002 stripe. Lucky! I ran 2 above 1 on this pass, so I went a little bit too honest with the dial probably, but nonetheless, the win light is on.
Round 5.
Alright, now you guys have all seen this pass before, because this one was featured in my Who Took the Stripe videos a couple months ago. Link down in the description if you have not seen those. Came into this round dialed in at a 510. Again, honest, because this time it was kind of the opposite situation. I was against a really, really slow car, dialed in at a 736. So this was like the polar opposite of the previous round. This time I was just on the fast side of a big mile-per-hour difference. I had a 13 bulb here, which is a good advantage in this race, and then I completely forgot about having my car dialed honest. So this is where trying to be 00 at the finish line really bit me bad. You can hear me dumping the throttle on this one way early, trying to anticipate me catching him, and I ended up staying behind by 001 on this race. I just messed up, really. I almost certainly would have had the light on if I would have just kept my foot on the gas. But that's how racing gonna go sometimes. Can't win them all. So I hope this video becomes a conversation with you guys down in the comments below. I'm hoping that some of you get some value out of this video, but also please realize that I am not perfect. I am not a robot on the racetrack. I definitely make mistakes. And I'm always looking for new ways to think about the drag race, new techniques to try out, any way to get better out on the racetrack. So definitely leave me a comment down below. What do you guys do on the racetrack? I want to learn from you. Hopefully you guys can learn from me. Let's talk about it down below.
Gulstar TV. Subscribe to Gulstar TV. You'll want to subscribe to Gulstar TV. Subscribe to Gulstar TV now. Thank you.